Vietnam. In early September, Typhoon Yagi hit Vietnam, causing floods and landslides, which took the lives of 197 people. In northern Vietnam, the Lang Nu village, home to 158 people, was swept away by a devastating torrent of water and mud that surged down from nearby hills. The district authorities said 41 people were killed, including at least 27 children, but 54 were still missing in the mud and the debris. Hanoi resident Tran Le Quinn said, "This is the worst flood I have seen in 30 years. It was dry yesterday morning, and now the entire street is flooded. We couldn't sleep last night." Guyan Van Hung, 56, another resident of Hanoi, said, "My home is now part of the river."
Argentina. On the 10th of March, a year's worth of rain fell in just 8 hours in the city of Bahia Blanca and the town of Sari. 2 girls, aged 1 and 5, were swept away by the severe floods that ripped through Buenos Aires province, killing at least 16 people. A 52-year-old resident, Soledad Bengochea, said, "We looked at the street and saw a river. We saw cars, trucks, containers, everything floating by. You could hear store windows breaking and see furniture being dragged by the current. In one car, we saw 2 people trapped. It was overwhelming and terrible. There are many people who have suffered." The Philippines. On 24th of October, Tropical Storm Tommy hit the Philippines, bringing 2 months of rainfall in just 24 hours, causing massive landslides and flooding, affecting approximately 7 million people, displacing over 761,000 and causing 145 fatalities. Women and girls were often disproportionately affected in the crises. Rodelyn Tabor, a pregnant woman from Jaro, Iloilo City, said, "Life was already hard before the storm hit, and now it's even worse. We have no food because my husband hasn't worked for days due to the rains."
Uganda, Kampala. In the city of Kampala, the impacts of climate change are manifested in very heavy rainfall, which causes floods, contaminated water supply, and waterborne diseases such as cholera, all of which are exacerbated by poverty. People often move to Kampala from northern Uganda to escape drought, but find they still have problems because of the floods and difficulty accessing fresh water. The frequency and intensity of floods are expected to increase with climate change. We will now play another recording of the experiences of women in Uganda, and we will hear from Jennifer, Mabo and Grace, who live in Kampala.
Let us move back to Kampala.
This is in a slum in Ibanda, around Kampala. The women immigrated from northern Uganda, the region that was affected by war for 20 years. They have their own stories to tell. Alan, Daisy, let us hear from your side. Thank you.
Yes, this is Jennifer from Kampala. So, as most people know our story, we came along all from northern Uganda, where we were sometimes affected by war. So from there also, some of the areas were really affected with the drought. As you know, northern Uganda is also just dry like Karamoja. We also lack water, and people have to move from place to place to different places, whereby in a day you find someone carrying a jerrycan of water, and you need to use it for bathing. You need to use the end of the day We just get tired for no good reason. We came here in Kampala, thought that we would find a good life, but still on the same water crisis, we are still facing the same problem whereby people need to go to the well, and the well is a bit far. Above all, you have to cross the road, and you find that as young as our children are, at the end of the day, they are road and they are being knocked by the motor vehicle, whereby we expect such kind of things, but we have nothing really to do, and we hope for the better. So we are praying, come rain, come sun, at least when we have a rainfall, other people can fetch it to help them cook food, wash clothes, and at the end of the day, our children are safe. But as we talk for now, we still don't have the proper solution to the problem of the water crisis. Up to now, we still have water crisis. Some of our areas, the water, even when it rains too much, it can come inside the home, whereby people will fail to sleep in that house. Last year, we lost 7 kids because of too much rainfall. That was the problem we had last year.
During rain season, we get contaminated water, so that our water is not good enough for drinking and using in our homes or domestic work. Even the distance between it plus the children, as we work, some mothers, we are single, so we take a chance of our children to go and collect water so that mothers can get food for the family. But otherwise, we get problems because we send children to go for water. We stay at home doing other work, getting food for our children. Then the children are knocked by the vehicles. That's another big problem which we have.
In the Karamoja and Bududa, the same with here. Sometimes you get water, rain, and houses fall, and people die. And we are still the same as Karamoja, as Bududa. We are praying that may God help us and we get the solution. Thank you so much. I'm remain Grace Echel.
Yes, thank you for sharing with us your stories and realities. Please, can you tell us, how do you stay strong and brave in your situation?
Hello, I'm answering. She has said they stay strong because when these mudslides come along, when they wash away their homes, they leave their homes and go to the neighbors whose places the mudslides have not washed away, and they still stay with them and still do some little work for them, and they give them some faith for them to survive.
Okay, collecting the voices of the women that they've said. We read that question earlier on, and I'd already translated to them. So I've been staying strong. This crisis fully has become part and parcel of them. It's not new. It's been there. It's still there. And how they have been doing it is fast forward. They have been engaging like earlier on casual labor, especially looking for work. But of course, I also have to add my voice. This is my voice that much as the women say they've stayed strong, it's not really the situation, because there are a lot of child migrants for Karamoja that are going to bigger cities in Uganda like Busia, Mbale, Kampala. There are a lot of street children from Karamoja. So saying standing strong, I wouldn't say that they have stood so strong, because this has weakened the community members. But from their voices, the old women say that there are government programs. For example, SAGE is a social assistance grant for the elderly. This particular program is for older women and men. They are paid like 25,000 per month to help them to support. Of course, this is not adequate enough. They have also talked of NUSAF, that is Northern Uganda Social Action Fund, but apparently they are saying NUSAF is already phasing out. It's no longer in place. But of course, standing strong, I wouldn't really say that they are standing strong, because according to the news and even the reports, Karamoja lost a lot of people last year to the hunger crisis. Over 7,000 people dying because of hunger. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Jennifer. Like the current speaker said, that we are not so strong. Indeed, we are not, because we are losing children and we are still having a lot of problems. But only that, for example, people who are in Kampala, being a camp, even back home in the village, you find that our land was taken. whereby when you plan to go back right now, we don't have a piece of land to go. That's why, come rain comes and all this problem we are still facing, we are still going under through. So we don't have any other alternative as per now. Thank you.
Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, repeated floods from May 2024 onwards affected 18 million people. In August, heavy monsoon rains culminated in flash floods that killed 712 people and displaced 500,000 people in the Chattogram and Sylhet regions alone. A member of Oxfam in Bangladesh's emergency response team said, looking ahead, the possibility of floods becoming an annual disaster in the eastern districts of Bangladesh, like Feni and Noakhali, cannot be ruled out, as climate change has intensified extreme rainfall events in Bangladesh and northeast India in recent decades. In Senbag, Noakhali, an elderly man, said, I have never seen a flood of this intensity in this area in my 73 years of life. And a middle-aged man who had taken refuge in a flood shelter with his family and 2 cows said, the water you're seeing now was around 2 feet higher just 2 or 3 days ago. My house is still neck deep in water. We couldn't bring anything with us to the flood shelter. I'm worried about when the water will fully recede. And even when it does, how we will start life again when we return home.
Nepal. From 26th to 28th of September 2024, extremely heavy rainfall hit Nepal, especially the capital Kathmandu and nearby regions, causing devastating flash floods, landslides and a riverine flooding. 244 people were killed. While Nepal's share of global emissions, the burning of fossil fuels, is 0.1%. The country is the 4th most vulnerable in the world. Frederica Otto, senior lecturer at the Center for Environmental Policy, said of the disaster, yet again, we've seen fatalities from the flood in Asia, each triple digits in 2024. The world's sluggish shift away from oil, gas and coal is resulting in death for the poorest, most vulnerable people. Floods like these will keep getting bigger, deadlier, costlier, until fossil fuels are replaced with renewable energy.
Kenya. At the time of the BIBA Conference last year, Kenya was suffering from the effect of catastrophic floods and their aftermath. Since the wet season had begun in March, torrential rains had caused devastating floods. At least 228 people had died. Thousands had been displaced. Almost 2,000 schools had been affected, and all remaining schools had been shut indefinitely by the government. During this time, as part of the Global Mothers Rebellion Network, we received messages from our fellow mothers in Kenya who were on the front line, experiencing the destruction and illnesses caused by the extreme floods there. At the same time, they were continuing their fight against fossil fuel expansion and increasing their demands for climate justice.
Miriam Wanjiku, environmental activist and climate mum from Kisumu, said there have been increased cases of flooding in Kenya. We are currently witnessing destruction at a rate that has not been seen in Kenya in the past. The effects of climate change are becoming more and more visible in time. In Kisumu, lake levels are rising in flooding homes. Overly, the death toll in the past 2 weeks has crossed over the 100 mark. If the status remains the same, it will hurt not only the economy, but also the ecosystem and well-being of my fellow Kenyans. We are in a climate crisis, and it's not going to be long before the crisis turns into a catastrophe. We need to reduce carbon emissions, to arrest global warming, and to end fossil fuel expansion.
Betty Ngeno from Nairobi and an activist with Mothers Rebellion Kenya said, in the global south, changes in rainfall patterns, rising sea levels and increasingly violent storms have severe impact on women and children. This is particularly worrying as about 75% of the world's poor live in rural areas and slum in urban cities and depend on agriculture and menial jobs for their livelihoods. The current flooding in Kenya's capital Nairobi has really shown how bad climate change is now. Maiu incident of flooding claimed at least 52 people in total. That's 29 children, 12 women and 11 men. It is so scary as mothers, and we don't know how tomorrow will be for our children. We can't keep quiet anymore. We must take action for the future of our children and our Mother Earth.
Now we would like to ask you to join us in a minute's silence to remember those who have lost their lives, their loved ones and communities through flooding, and to reflect on how we can show solidarity in demanding climate justice for all affected.